I got to ask, first off, Joel, you've been there forever at this point. Why does this keep happening? How do you guys continue to predict the future?
We're getting into it right now, are
Yeah,
we?
let's just do it.
Let's
I just
do
want to
it.
hear it.
Let me tell everyone the sad truth, and then I will try to salvage it with a little bit of hope at the end. How about that?
All right.
So most of the time when people say Simpsons predicted it, what has happened is the Simpsons are a bunch of hacks, and we have merely reported on something that has already happened, but the world travels in cycles. So one of the things that people talk about recently or semi-recently is Simpsons predicted COVID, and they show this clip that was aired after SARS, if you guys remember SARS, one of our great viruses. And we did a joke on the show where like the newscaster Kent Brockman is saying, this Asian flu, blah, 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 blah. So people show that clip and they're like, Simpsons predicted COVID. In fact, we were like probably 3 years after the fact of SARS and just doing a sort of a joke or a take on SARS. So a lot of times it's just that cycle of life that looks like there's a prediction. Add to that now the ability of everybody out in the world to use AI and crappy animation, and people are creating memes and little video clips that look like a prediction after, of course, the fact that it happened. The third thing I'll throw on the bummer pile is like, for example, there was these horrific fires in Los Angeles. There's all these things. Simpsons predicted the fire. Well, we have 800 episodes. Shockingly, we have had one with a fire in it. So you can find a clip of a fire and then say Simpsons predicted the fire. So those are the bummers. The good news is the day after I started the day after this aired, but one of our writers, Dan Graney, who Rob knows certainly, was writing an episode and he had to think of it was in the future. I forget the name of the episode, but it's in the future when Lisa becomes president and replaces the former president and had to name who the president was. Dan's first idea was President Depp because he thought, oh, Johnny Depp. Then he thought, no, no, that's too viable. It has to be the most ridiculous, idiotic name you could ever put in there. So he chose President Trump, which that was in 2000 that aired. So that was a clear prediction. And as you've mentioned, with all the last thing I'll say, with 800 episodes, we occasionally do stuff that then does prove prescient. Like we've predicted Olympic curling success and World Cup scores and Super Bowl teams, etc. So long-winded answer to say often it's either super laziness and a little bit of luck.
You did a Treehouse of Horrors episode
Hmm.
where Homer went to vote. It was Barack Obama, John McCain. This presaged a lot of freaking chaos. Explain what happened in the episode and obviously how it predicted more and more uh, uh, chaos in the voting world.
Well, I hate to keep going back. I think it's just like you see these trends that are obvious, right? Where like obviously, gerrymandering of voting districts and stuff, and you can just tell there's going to be voting chaos in our future and people restricting people's rights to votes and all that stuff. So all that stuff was bubbling. I believe with that one and with many other times, like it takes 9 months to make an episode of The Simpsons. So a lot of times we don't do really topical stuff. But I think in that case, we literally held it or prepared like multiple versions and then just slotted in the most likely one at the last minute of who was going to be on the ballot. We've done that a few times where we just because we can't risk it to the very last minute. Um, so I mean, again, I guess I'm answering the first question. It was just that idea that all that stuff was in the water already. That idea of what will happen to elections and voting chaos. We probably got a little bit lucky, but then just even if you're talking about specific names on the ballot, I think that was just literally waiting till the Friday before it aired on the Sunday.
Yeah, and then since then, of course, there have been nearly $1 billion in payments for the libel of voting machine irregularities. Uh, so nice job, nailed that one.
And I've made like half of that billion, so it's worked out pretty well for me.
All right, so in 2010, Milhouse predicts who's going to win the Nobel Prize, and what I can only imagine was a very high stakes pool at school for Milhouse and Homer. Uh, he predicted, I can't even say the guy's name, Banked Holmstrom from MIT, uh, as the winner of the 2010 Nobel Prize. He also had in his pool Ben Feringa as a possible winner in 2010. In 2016, Joel, both of them won the Nobel Prize for their respective fields. Explain yourself.
You'll see a gun approach from off screen as I start talking. Um, uh, Again, this is a they're aside from gamblers, the other thing The Simpsons is famous for is a lot of nerds and super smart people. And my guess is, because I can't recall any of this, that these people literally researched who are the leading candidates, just like I'm sure Simon would, and like the odds, and looked forward on who's, I don't even know what the prizes were for, chemistry or literature or whatever, but I'm sure they researched these guys and who are the leading candidates or working on developments and took a swing. And again, the names are so obscure to morons like me that it sounds funny when it's on TV regardless. And then I didn't, until this moment, even know that they'd actually won. So I have some bets to collect myself.